Sorry for the delay, guys. It is my fault. But welcome to Monday Night Generational Change. I'm Peter, and you are
Zeynab.
Thank you for filling in, partner. It's great to see you. How's everything going?
Going great. I'm hoping that Jen's having an amazing time. It's a very well-deserved respite, and I am happy to co-host in her stead.
Well, she
Thanks
is
for the invite tonight.
well, she is trying to find the Loch Ness monster as we speak. So,
That's
wonderful
awesome.
doing that. So, hope you guys all had a great weekend. Lord knows there's going to be a million and one topics that we're going to touch on this evening. Make sure you smash that like button if you haven't already. I hope that we don't suffer any numbers because we started late. Unfortunately, I am in Texas right now, and I was coming off of a major interstate and was not able to get to it because of rush hour traffic. Things work a little differently in the Lone Star State. But nevertheless, we hope you guys are all doing great this evening. Zaina, since you are a guest, I would like you to make the first topic of discussion call that you would like to cover this evening.
Oh, I saw what we were kind of talking about. So I'm not sure exactly all we have. There's some surprise content here for me. You want to kick it off with talking?
I don't want to get into Greta just yet. Obviously, we want to save that for when the crowd.
You want to talk about liberals demonizing what I sent you? Liberals demonizing protesters and their weird, mealy-mouthed responses. We got a response from Bernie that's just
I think that generally speaking, we have accepted the fact that Bernie Sanders brought us to a certain point. For those that were kind of brought into the political movement that started in the summer of 2015, we have seen the evolution of Bernie Sanders in terms of his political messaging. It didn't just happen overnight. Unlike other people that we have seen that were probably just being deceitful from the jump, I think Bernie has kind of evolved into this damage control type of politician where he's not really willing to take those risks anymore. So, Colin, if you have that tweet, and it's, we can certainly open with what's going on in Los Angeles as we speak. Clearly, these riots, as most of you who are probably aware know, they stem almost directly from the ICE raids. Obviously, LA, Southern California in general. There is a substantial amount of, we could be politically correct or politically incorrect. It is illegal immigration. Everybody has differences of opinion as to why that's an issue in this country. I maintain a very concise, direct reasoning as to why that is. We have multinational corporations in this country that do not give a damn about our citizenry, and they want to pay pennies on the dollar. They have no interest in healthcare. They have no interest in a living wage. And so what do? They bring people into this country that are willing to work for pennies on the dollar because they are desperate, and that is what is afforded to them. And so when everyone is wondering, why do we have these people here? Why are these problems happening? It's pretty easy to see why. But let's not forget that a lot of what's going in LA right now, there are many layers to it. And one of those layers, unfortunately, involves Bernie Sanders making a statement like this. Would you like me to do the honors?
Sure, go for it.
Dr. King defeated racist government officials and ended segregation through disciplined, nonviolent resistance. Defeating Trumpism, oligarchy, and authoritarianism requires that same level of discipline. Violent protests are counterproductive and play a right into Trump's playbook. I don't know, Zaina, what do you think?
I think that, so sorry.
I mean, we've come to expect this, I believe, in many ways. And Bernie's going to try to either fence it or not say what needs to be said. But if you're not going to address the problem regarding the violence, we will address that over the course of this topic. But I'm curious as to what your thoughts are.
My thoughts are that this idea that there wasn't civil unrest, that there wasn't, violent uprising during the Jim Crow era and segregation is a whitewashed myth of history. You can look back in letters from the Birmingham jail. Even crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge at the time was extremely controversial, and they blamed Bloody Sunday on the protesters. So, I mean, that's a myth. It's a myth. Playing nice with the segregationists did not work. What worked was after MLK, I'm sorry, was shot and murdered, violent protest erupted all across the country. And I'm not necessarily advocating for violence. I'm saying what happened. And that is part of what kickstarted actually getting real legislation passed. And that's American history. That's history. Playing nice and, demonizing protesters, anything that they could find, even when protesters were peaceful, just sitting at a lunch counter, there was controversy around it and it was demonized. If you look at pro-Palestinian protesters, 99.9% of these protests have been peaceful. Yet our entire government almost every member of Congress has demonized pro-Palestine protesters as terrorists. So no matter what you do, the fascists are going to demonize you as terrorist. I mean, right now there can be these peaceful protests, and because not every single person is waving an American flag, it's considered, oh, look, they're playing right into the right wing's hands. We're seeing a bunch of liberals post, and I think we've got a tweet of that as well, saying that because they're not waving the American flag, that there's not a whole bunch of people out there. And there are a lot of protesters waving the American flag. It's just those protesters aren't being highlighted. There can always be one protester, one person that people will hone in on. Now, I have no issue with this. I don't care. Like, I see the dude waving the flag standing on the car. I'm not like getting all scared and wanting to cry over that. What scares me is the fact that I have been to dozens and dozens and dozens of peaceful protests that cops have beat the shit out of people for years now. We could be completely peaceful and cops come in and cops start a lot of the violence, but that's never demonized. The cops starting the violence is rarely demonized I'm talking about by the corporate media and by Democratic Party talking heads. Instead, when violence does erupt, when people are fed up and violence starts within the electorate, that's who's demonized. Systemic violence from the people that are ruling us, the people that, from the oligarchy, is not demonized. When people finally get fed up and this kind of thing happens is when it does get demonized. And that's in order for them to kind of push back more control. But that picture of Martin Luther King is a picture of him breaking the law. When they marched into Selma, that was illegal. And much of the news at the time called them terrorists for marching over that bridge, because it was illegal to march over that bridge. And then the police came out, they had Mountie waiting, they had police waiting, and they beat the shit out of organizers. And some of the organizers fought back. And when those organizers fought back on Bloody Sunday, they demonized the organizers who fought back. That's real history. That's not taught. What is taught is people died on Bloody Sunday because of the police response simply for crossing a bridge.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's a lot that I don't think people truly understand about what really goes into these protests. On the one hand, you have the people who have just reached the point of no return, where they simply don't trust the system anymore. They want to see it all burned to the ground, not because they want to do unduly harm to other people, although in some cases they certainly do. But when you start to see violence that results in loss of property damage, the reason why this becomes a very big sticking point, where everyone who is, let's say, on the further left, and there's no such thing as far left, but let's just say on the further left, where this whole thing about property doesn't really matter. For those people that do believe in, let's say, communism, for example, they believe in communal ownership of property, they don't necessarily care. Where I think that this is a big problem, because I don't believe in communism, is you have these small business owners, these people who work hard, people who could, just be owning a regular car, for example, and all these riots just manage to get out of control very, very quickly. And the violence becomes like a wildfire in many ways. You have a few people that start it, and then you have dozens, if not hundreds, that enact upon it and make it even worse. But then what you also have are the provocateurs that doesn't get talked about. A lot of the police officers that are there may be there to maintain law and order. But there's also police officers there who are looking or itching for a fight, who are looking for a reason to get involved, to mix things up. Kind of like the Australian news reporter who got a rubber bullet shot in her ass, or the peaceful protester who got a bullet shot in their head. And anyone who's seen that footage knows that in all likelihood, they weren't doing anything out of line. But there are people that get into these environments and they are itching to do something.
Well,
And
you have people that are embedded too. I mean, in Black Lives Matter, Proud Boys were going, I was on the ground when this happened in one of the protests, having their people try to break things or instigate to also fuel things. Every time I've ever organized, there's always been people there from the opposing ideology, usually fascist, trying to get a rise, trying to have something, anything that they record. I've seen people burn flags. I'm not against flag burning. I think that's protected under the First Amendment, but I've seen people come knowing they're not part of our organizing and burning flags and recognizing them from being, in the right-wing scene. So that is things that those kinds of things happen too. I agree with you on the businesses. I just think that that's talked about way more than the fact that what has harmed our businesses the most is venture capitalism, and the fact that a store like Walmart comes into communities and devastates their local businesses, has shut down entire towns. But when someone sees the visual of something like this happening in a city like LA, they'll focus on that a lot more than they'll focus on the actual institutionalized, monopolies and the things that are actually real problems. Now, I'm not saying it's already against the law. It's against the law to go in and vandalize a place, right?
yes,
So that's already illegal. I don't criticize the oppressed for how they react to their oppression. I mean, I'm not going to go and do that, but I don't think it's a good thing to go and bash the windows of like a 7-Eleven that's owned by, a lower middle class family. I don't really see the point in how that's helping anybody. But I do understand that what causes this kind of thing overall, talking about the overall protests and stuff, focusing on that takes the eyes away from the fact that ICE is on the ground as a Gestapo kidnapping people, without their kidnapping people off the street and throwing them into gulags. And no due process. I think that's the main crux of what's going on here.
I definitely agree. I think that's where this kind of transitions the conversation properly into Laura Loomer. I'm only picking her. I would rather not pick her because she's such a loon. She should just be called Laura Loon, because that's what she is. She's a freaking
Laura Loonier.
Or Laura Looney Tune. Yeah, something along those lines. So for those of you who know who Laura Loomer is, she is a very proud Zionist from South Florida who people have rumored has had some type of a relationship with Donald Trump, among other people. I don't really care. What I do care about is that she, like so many others, regardless of political ideology, is open for business. And what I mean by that is this is somebody who is actually advocating, not even suggesting, but advocating for Palantir to enact their 1984-esque censorship and spying operations on all of us. And they want to use what's going on in Los Angeles as a testing ground. So she says, time to deploy Palantir to LA to deal with the illegals. You know you'd love to see it. You're lying if you say you wouldn't. Now, I don't know about you, Z, but to me, anybody who's putting out a message like that, most likely is getting paid to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. So when we think about all of the problems that are going on with the riots right now, is there some type of a financial incentive that a multinational corporation that is behind so much of not what just is going on in Israel right now, but what is going on all over the world in terms of Big Brother basically watching us on a daily basis? If there's anybody that is involved with high-tech censorship and spyware, it's coming from an organization like Palantir. So is it possible that the activities that are happening in LA as we speak have been sort of a clandestine operation on Palantir's part to get people to react in such a way that creates such violence that now President Trump is being asked to bring in the National Guard? And once you start going down that path, you enter a point of no return. We're already turning into a police state. We see the cop cities everywhere. Who's to say that this type of technology is not being enacted right now? And if there is a person who can talk about this, our good friend James Lee, who works for Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar, but also has his own channel, James Lee 5149, and does a lot of great investigative journalistic work. Here's what he had to say regarding this issue in Los Angeles as we speak.
There's some pretty unpopular things, starting with this is not good. Also, this is not a peaceful protest. But something very disturbing is happening in the background that I think you should know about. It's time to deploy Palantir to Los Angeles to deal with the illegals. You know you love to see it. You're lying if you say you wouldn't. This is the grand plan. Okay, it's not an accident that cars are burning on the streets and people are waving foreign flags on the streets. There is something they're trying to manufacture consent for. Remember, when they justified the passing of the Patriot Act over 20 years ago, they told us we needed all this extra power to go after the bad guys, to get rid of the terrorists. But almost immediately, the government started to use that extra power they were given to spy on ordinary Americans.
You know, one of the things that rarely gets talked about when we think back about the Patriot Act post 9/11, the Patriot Act was a bill that was in flux for years in both chambers. They wanted to get this through. They needed an excuse to get it through. And the more we learn about what really happened on 9/11, wink, wink, it's easy to see why a lot of these things happen. So when somebody like Looney Tune comes out and says, why don't we just have Palantir go in there and round up the illegals? We know that this is all being done and it's being perpetuated by this idea of let's rile up these people in LA as much as we possibly can. And because we are doing that, we are now going to justify the actions of a multinational machine that is Palantir. I think James is onto something. And I think we should,
but
I think even if he's wrong, but here's what I would say. Even if he is wrong, I think we should be more, we should have more of the mindset of we are expecting it to be as bad as it could possibly be. And then maybe we get lucky and it isn't as bad. But to not preempt this idea that there are intentions behind these actions, I think would be a fool's errand on our part. Your thoughts on that?
Well, he's not wrong, but this isn't like, no matter what, they were going to do this. So, I mean, maybe they used LA for a staging ground, but it's not like it's not like they have to manufacture consent. They're ramming through things all they want anyway. I think she's just telling us what we're planning on doing anyway, because 2 weeks ago, the Trump administration awarded a $30 million contract to Palantir to commission Immigration OS. This was already a thing. They're already using it. Aaron Cohen, last week, former IDF soldier, advises the Trump administration, came on and he said, I tell you what, in order to deal with those pro-Palestine people and with all the uprisings you have, I've been telling him that they need to get with Palantir and utilize Gideon, which is a surveillance system that's utilized within the West Bank in order to screen people's social media and everything that they do online, so that they could go and arrest anti-war Israelis and Palestinians in the West Bank. They've already been using it there for 2 years now, Gideon. So he's talking about using Gideon here, and then the $30 million contract was awarded, and then another contract in order to I can't remember how much it was for, because there was a little bit of like back and forth on the actual amount because it hasn't been disclosed yet. So I don't want to speak on that, but I do know a contract was awarded to Palantir to spy on us already. That's done. The big, beautiful bill has even more money to spy on us.
It's a really great bill, believe me.
It extends it, and on top of that, it has a provision which Ashley Bishop covered. I know we had been talking about it, and she covered a provision that's in the that was in the big beautiful bill that also suspends any state's rights to regulate AI. So the building of AI data centers, any kind of AI data or any kind of AI regulation. So yeah, I mean, James Lee is absolutely right. Nothing he said is wrong. I completely agree with him, but it's not covert. And I think if they didn't use LA, they would have used something.
Found another
Or they
source.
would have done it anyway. I
Yep.
don't necessarily, I think LA is a response to ICE being there, and ICE being there has been something that Trump talked about on the campaign trail 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. He's been talking about this for a decade now, going into the sanctuary cities, bringing ICE in, doing exactly what he's doing. So I don't necessarily think it's only for Palantir, but I think they're taking advantage of it in order to utilize it to expand Palantir's resources. But I think it's part of the white supremacy project that they're working with Heritage Foundation on. That's how they got those people over there. And then how they got the tech bros involved is they said, you can create your own little cities and kingdoms. We'll let you do company towns, but we'll also buy your tech in order to surveil people so that we can keep the populace under control. Because we know things are going to shit. Our economy is going to shit. Everything's going downhill. So these are all just different systems in order for the elite to maintain their control. Or even in the upper middle class are okay with it because they want to maintain their comfort too, even if it's at the expense of everyone else.
Great. We'll finish it out.
Right?
Sorry,
How can
that was
you
a lot.
be so sure that you will not be deemed an enemy of the state one day? There's absolutely no guarantee that this master database won't be weaponized against you. And to be perfectly honest, history tells us that the likelihood is pretty high that it will be used against you one day. So to quote RFK Jr., 1, any power that the government takes from the people, it will never return voluntarily. 2, every power that the government takes, it will ultimately be abused to the maximum extent possible. 3, nobody ever complied their way out of totalitarianism. The only thing we can do is resist. Be careful out there.
The irony of that coming from a raging fascist. Oh, I hate RFK Jr. He's right about that, but he's complicit in the fascism.
The problem that I have is that I am committed to the state of Israel, and that's why I'm a hypocrite about what I say, and I shouldn't say it. But what I do believe, as Whitney Webb talks about in One Nation Under Blackmail, I just think there's stuff on RFK, and that's like a lot of other people. I think RFK has some good ideas. I think he's got some really shitty ideas. And when you get right down to it, the fealty and the coping and the outright simping for the state of Israel, to me, it stems from a certain level of blackmail that I just don't think people truly understand. Whether it was, voluntary or not, I think this is one of the reasons that they've been able to get away with so much for so long, and why, despite of all the things that are going on, that it is all interconnected in many ways. And so I applaud anybody who's willing to step up and say what needs to be said, because we're living in times right now where things are getting really bad. And I think the funny thing about what RFK said is that he used the word resist when in reality the word is revolution. You got the R word right, but it's the wrong R. Resistance is not what this is about. This is about a revolutionary change, wink, wink, because that's where our channel's name is going to be in a couple of weeks. But that is ostensibly where we are. We can't continue to pretend that this system can sustain itself, because it can't. There's too many people that don't trust it anymore, and they never will again in its current construct. And it's only getting worse by the day. So you really have to wonder why this sort of decision that is being made at the very top is counterintuitive to what should be done right now, which almost makes you wonder if we really are in that sort of end stage where the looting of the treasury is just acceptable practice, and they're going to try to get as much out of this as they can and screw over as many people as they can in the process. I don't know, but I know that as Lincoln once said, you can fool some of the people all the time. You can fool all the people some of the time. You cannot fool all the people all the time. And that's where we are now. There's too many people that are too aware of how the system works, at least on the surface, where the wool is not being pulled over the eyes anymore, which is why, like I said, the suspicion that what's going on in LA is being perpetuated further by people who want it to get worse because they see a financial, economic, and political benefit as a result. That's where I stand. Am I right? I'm always right until I'm not. So I'll accept that on the face. For those of you that are here, no, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I always have a question to ask when people talk
Sure.
about revolution. I always say, what does revolution mean to you? Like,
It
what
means
do you
getting out of
want
your
to
comfort
see?
zone.
Because there are a lot of people that aren't allies to human rights and civil liberties that talk about revolution. That wouldn't be you guys, so I'm all for you having that title. But I would ask RFK Jr., what does revolution mean to you? Like, what are the people that you think are the people that are in power pulling the strings? Because if you go and you listen to somebody like Curtis Yarvin, he's talking about revolution all the time, but he wants a techno monarchy. And he talks about the powers that be, and he talks about the people that are brainwashing us. And he sometimes talks sort of about the problems with modern day capitalism, but not in the way you'd imagine. So that's why I always ask. I'm always like, what do you mean by revolution? Because I think, we don't want a Gilead. Gilead in Handmaid's Tale was a revolution.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, if you cannot have capitalism sustain itself without socialism, you cannot have one without the other. It doesn't work. Where I think that's where the whole fear comes into play. But as we've seen, the only people who speak ill of the fundamental changes that need to happen right now are coming from people that are very comfortable within the current system. It's a very small percentage, but they have benefited mightily as a result. So for those of you that are here, remember, we are a small but mighty and growing channel. As we stand, as of this moment, guys, for those of you who are always here, for those of you that are new here, we are 23 subscribers away from 27,000. Who could have imagined that this small but mighty channel would ever get to that point? So if you're not currently subscribed, please make sure that you do. And if you are so inclined to contribute to our small but mighty channel, you can also go over to patreon.com/generational change. For as little as $5 a month, you could become a supporter of our small but growing mighty channel. And we certainly appreciate all of you that are here. Our wonderful mod, Brett Boyle, thank you so much for the 2 Canadian A. F Zionazis, and hit the like button. We certainly hope all of you will. Right now, it looks like we've got about 50 or 60 of you that are here that have not hit the like button yet. So please make sure you hit it so that we can pass the 200 live stream viewer mark, among other numbers we'd like to hit tonight. Chris Peters, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. We really appreciate it. Every little bit counts. S. Kolachuk, thank you for the 2 Canadian A. The cops set those cars on fire in LA yesterday. It would not surprise me in the least if they did. Chris Peters, thank you so much for the £5. In the NHS in the UK, Palantir was working on data systems. When I told my friends they supported Israel, my friends refused to work on the program. Good for them, as they should. And I do think that is becoming a theme now. I do think a lot of people are starting to recognize that anything that is attached to Israel from an economic standpoint, probably not a really good idea. And as we have seen, the economy in Israel overall is in a lot of trouble right now. And I don't know how it's going to go down, but what we've seen here stateside, and this is a good transition into a topic that I know you'll have a lot to say about, the mayoral race in New York City.
I actually don't,
but don't.
we can comment. I don't follow that much elections that much anymore.
I don't either.
But I have some opinions.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think Zohran has been doing a really good job, for what it's worth. He does not appear to be a corporate influence candidate, but we all know things can change once he sits in Gracie Mansion. But for the time being, he is saying the right things. And I thought this was very telling at the debate a few nights ago when the topic of Israel just had to come up in conversation.
Foreign visit by a mayor of New York is always considered significant. Where would you go first? Left to right, Ms. Adams.
First visit, I would visit the Holy Land.
Mr. Cuomo?
Given the hostility and the anti-Semitism that has been shown in New York, I would go to Israel.
Mr. Tilson, where would you go?
Yeah, I'd make my 4th trip to Israel, followed by my 5th trip to Ukraine.
Okay, let me show you how much of a whore for the Democratic establishment I can be. Let me not only invoke Israel, but I'm going to invoke Ukraine too. Let's just get it all on the table. Making my 5th trip to Ukraine.
Could his pin be any bigger?
He's like, anything you could do, I could do it just a little bit more, a little more harder. But why is this even coming up in a New York City mayoral debate? What the fuck does this have to do with anything? Nothing. It has nothing to do with anything.
Our greatest allies fighting on the front lines of the global war on terror.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel as mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
Once again, what does this have to do with New York City politics? Unless we live in a country that believes that our loyalty must rest with the state of Israel first and then our country. I don't know about you, but that's not America first, especially for those of you who are in the chat that support MAGA. Hey, guys, this is a serious problem. And it's not just the Republicans, it's Democrats, too. It's actually kind of worse on the Democratic side because the big city politics, especially in New York, this is serious business. And while I think Mamdani has a shot, they really are trying to everybody else gave their answer. Everybody else was able to give their 10, 15-second response. The second you deviate
No pushback.
The second you deviate from, I believe Israel's benevolent and perfect. What do you mean by that, Mr. Mamdani? It's bad enough that you're also a person of color. How about we dig in a little deeper on you?
Oh, no, it's racist. This is racist.
It is. It is, 100%.
No.
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not
as a Jewish state?
Notice.
As a state with equal rights.
He won't
Not as
say
a
it
Jewish
has a
state.
right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very
And
clear
his
on
answer was no, he won't visit Israel.
I said that.
That's what he was trying to say.
No. Unlike you, I answer questions very directly.
My goal would be to take my first trip to Israel. My wife's life work in this area means a lot to our family.
Sorry. Just had to get the
Imagine if you were in Dearborn, right?
Yeah.
And someone was running, and a Muslim American was running for governor of Dearborn, or not governor, mayor, governor of Dearborn, mayor of Dearborn. And I've been yelling at Gavin Newsom all day, so governor's been at the top of my mind. But anyway, I digress. Mayor of Dearborn, and a question was posed on whether or not they support an Islamic state in Iran. Islamic control. Does Iran have a right to exist as an Islamic supremacist state?
Yeah.
And the question would be posed completely opposite. Right?
Of course.
Like, it's so backwards to me. I think it should just be common sense that you want people to have all equal rights, but it's very telling that the answer, I believe all people should have equal rights, is triggering. What does that say? So if they already exist as a state where people have all equal rights, then why is anything that he just said controversial?
Well,
it's not.
No, but again, I also think that the emphasis is being put in great detail on this particular issue because they know that the walls are closing in. The armor is cracking. They have never experienced this in the history of the country. And so as a result, we are now living in a new world today where the state of Israel does not claim benevolence over our people. And that is a very, very rare occurrence. If it's only temporary, I don't believe it is. At least we're getting everything out in the open now. But I do believe that this is a serious problem. And for one of the top, if not, 1A, 1B contender for mayor of New York City is basically saying, no, I don't believe in the benevolence of the state of Israel, then that is a massive shift. And it is a tragedy that it has to come this way. And I'm saying this for this reason, because I don't believe that the Palestinian people are going to be saved. I believe that they are being martyred. It is the most horrific sacrifice we've ever seen. But there must be vindication and retribution for what has been done to them and is continuing to be done to them. They cannot get away with this. They will not be able to get away with this. And that is why the narrative is changing in a substantial way. Now, with that said, AOC did endorse Mamdani. Do I think it's going to cause that big of an impact on the race? It might. but I can't really say for certain if it's going to necessarily change where the people that would support her were already supporting Zohran to begin with, and is necessarily moving the needle in a direction away from where things had started. And the reason I bring that up is because AOC decided that she was not only going to endorse Mamdani, but didn't put out a direct post about it. But what she did do, and I'm going to grab this in a second, is she did put out a post regarding the state of Israel. And to me, that is unacceptable. So
yeah, I felt like she endorsed him and then immediately felt like she had to virtue signal. Is that what it seemed like to you, Pete? Because that's what it felt like to me.
Well, it's not just that. It's everything that gets put out on a regular basis that is extremely politically calculating. I have seen so many things, and it looks like it may be, I could be wrong here. This is just another example, and I'm going to put this, I believe that she may have taken this clip down, but I'm going to put this out because, once again, we are living in a time where Alex is doing everything that an insider would do who's trying to climb the ranks within the political sphere, especially in the Democratic Party. And so if that is your plan, if that is what you are doing, then what you're doing is wrong. And so I think that her endorsement could potentially help. But what I also believe is that when you put out statements like this, I am horrified by last night's horrific attack in Boulder. My heart is with the victims and our Jewish communities across the country. Anti-Semitism is on the rise here at home, and we have a moral responsibility to confront and stop it everywhere it exists. And yet you're not addressing why it's happening. You do not want to go down the path of, yes, this is happening because of what's happening in Israel as we speak. And if you are not going to give a full-throated endorsement to Mamdani and address the fact that this is a win or lose, there is no political calculation here as far as I'm concerned. This just has to be, this is right from wrong. And if you are not
she waited late.
Yeah, the election.
You and I both worked campaigns. This is a late endorsement. You know, if she really supported him, she would have been helping to bring organizers, to bring resources, because her election is, more than a year away. She would have been helping with is almost 2 years away, really.
Well, not only that, but
from when he started, she could have helped him, but she didn't. Instead, she waits to endorse him 2.5 weeks before the primary.
Well, it's not just that it's 2 weeks before the primary. It's the fact that she's been out on this rally tour with Bernie, and she raised almost $10 million. Well, what is she raising that money for? Because she certainly doesn't need it for her reelection. She's in a plus the 35D district in Queens and the Bronx. She doesn't need to do anything. The only purpose of raising that money is to create a greater infrastructure within the party establishment. And so in this case, if she could have brought hundreds of thousands of dollars to Mamdani. Now, evidently, Mamdani claims that he doesn't need any more money. I don't know if I buy that necessarily. It's a great political message if that is true. Claims to have hit the high mark of $8 million. Hey, fantastic on his part.
That's great.
Apparently, he's got 18,000 unique individual donors for his campaign. And that's some serious work right there.
That's a good sign, actually, because, endorsements, it depends on how many people are from New York, but endorsement or donations, small dollar donations are a sign that the public is endorsing you in a way.
Yes.
That's a bigger endorsement than from AOC. But did you also notice, I just wanted to mention this really quick. AOC, when was it? A month ago, her campaign manager posted, we raised $9 million. We're so excited in the first quarter of the year, $9 million. I'm like, what the do you need with $9 million? And then he also said, oh, don't worry, but we paid our dues. We paid the DNC's $250,000. And I was like, oh, dude, okay. All right. So you're saying we raised $9 million, but don't worry, we're doing the party's bidding. It's like, and why? Stop it. Stop giving money to AOC like that. There's other things and either other candidates that you can give to besides her. She doesn't need $9 million in a quarter because she's going around on this tour with Bernie, because they're not really doing anything yet. They've brought people out, but their calls to action have been lackluster and have fallen on its face. So stop it. Give to pro-Palestine organizations, give to mutual aid, give to your communities, but Jesus, man, AOC doesn't need $9 million freaking dollars in one quarter. For what? Oh, you're muted.
There was that article that I sent you the other day. Colin, I want you to pull this up real quick. This might explain a lot. I could be wrong. I don't want to jump to any conclusions here. But if you could pull up this article, just the image.
I'm like, what is it? What is it?
No, this is actually kind of sad, but it's kind of funny at the same time. Alex believes that she has Jewish heritage. I knew it. I sensed it. The progressive Democrats said that generations ago her family consisted of Sephardic Jews. Well, guess what, guys? This was done back in December of 2018.
I remember this. I was like, what the are you doing? This was after I stopped. This was right after they let me go as like messaging advisor. Go ahead.
Talk about the writing being on the wall for a very long time and people just pretending like it wasn't there, that you couldn't see this. I mean, the trajectory is just so obvious because I don't know what Alex's play is. I mean, maybe she's going to run for president. But for anyone who thought that she was the Mockingjay, as Jen likes to say, she's not that person. Now, do I think that she could boost Zohran and help him win? And would I like to see him as the next mayor? Certainly. I think he would do a better job, certainly, than anybody else. And I think that he will advance certain policies at a city level that hasn't been seen in a very long time. And I think it will probably help quite a few people as a result. So certainly the endorsement is appreciated, but make no mistake about who Alex is, what her plans are, what she's trying to do. There is no 4D, 5D chess with this lady. She is very politically ambitious. She was extremely calculating in her endorsement of Zohran. He absolutely has a chance to win, which is why she's decided to throw her weight behind him. She could never get away with endorsing Cuomo, who's the only other possible winner in the race. But we've already seen what has happened to somebody like Jessica Ramos, who has made her own political calculation that Cuomo's going to win, and she wants to keep her career going. Because if there's one thing I think we can all agree is that if Cuomo does win, people think that Trump is a vengeful person. You have no idea. Trump is an angel compared to somebody like Andrew Cuomo. There will be retribution for people that came after him, likes of which you can't even begin to fathom. He is going to use that mayor's office for all it's worth. So anyone who got in his way over the last couple of years, it's probably a wise advice to say you may want to think about getting out of the city if he ends up winning, because
he's corrupt. I mean, the level of corruption, we saw when he was in last is just appalling. I mean, Eric Adams is a corrupt piece of garbage too, but Cuomo is worse, and he's got certain powerful people around him that are dangerous. Yeah, I
agree.
I hope he loses.
I think Zohran's got a chance. I do. He's run a great campaign. He's got a great comms team. He's run a great ground game.
His ads are awesome. I actually love his ads. They're great.
Yeah, the comms have definitely done a great job with that. They knew he probably brought in some of the same people that helped make Alex's, great ad, the one that really was a, kind of a game changer in many ways, along with the debate. And I think he did what he needed to do as far as
the debate was me.
Yes,
but anyway.
But I don't see how
we had another advisor too, so I can't take all the credit for that.
Yeah.
One.
But like I said, I think we're in a situation right now where the election's in 2 weeks. If you're contemplating who you're going to vote for Zohran if you live in New York City. If you're going to rank anybody, you don't have to rank all 5 spots. Keep that in mind. Do what you think is best, but don't rank Cuomo. Adams is running as an independent, so he's going to be in the general election no matter what. But any of those other guys on the stage that were saying the same garbage, especially about Israel, who cares? Don't rank them. People like that don't need to be ranked.
It's so crazy that in somewhere like New York, the primary is essentially like the general election. In all reality.
It's only a couple of weeks away. So let it come. And it'll be close, but I don't think anyone's winning on the first ballot line. I think it's going to go to multiple ballot lines. So we'll see how this ends up unfolding.
Well, you know how press approaches something. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you know how press kind of approaches things when you are looking at, well, the mainstream media approaches things, corporate media isn't always the way it is on the ground. So I'm very curious, you know, they're giving Cuomo a lot of airtime, and you would think he was going to be the person that's going to pull ahead, but he's very hated.
He is.
So I don't know that the media, I feel like, is just trying to push to keep Mamdani out, in part because of his criticisms of genocide in Gaza, and because of the social programs he wants to pass. So I think that I think we're going to have to see, but I think maybe the people are with Zohran a lot more than what we're seeing from the media. I don't trust the media ever when it comes to New York politics to reflect it clearly.
The media helps create the problems that we're facing. That's part of the problem. But we are the new media, and we are doing our part to make that change. Our channel is doing what we can to make that change. We are now 11 subscribers away from 27,000. So if you guys are not currently subscribed, please make sure that you do. Please make sure you hit the like button. Please make sure you share the stream. Any and all help is tremendously appreciated.
And subscribing is free. Subscribing is free. If you can, though, head on over to Patreon and donate, because I'll tell you what, it's hard to get work when you work in this sphere and you speak up and you're vocal. And so, and it's places like Generational Change doesn't get any ad buys, no corporate sponsors, none of that money, none of that. So it's just you guys. That's it.
Yeah,
not he's working on it.
No, well, what I'm working on is just growing the channel. You know, we do this. This is a passion of ours. For others, it is a career. I respect that. Thank you so much, man called Clay. Appreciate that. You know, any and all support is obviously very much appreciated on our channel. And I believe we did get did we get another super? Oh, Chris Garrett, one of our favorites over at Status Quo as well. Love the new name. Long live the channel. Yep, Jen will be back in 2 weeks. When Jen returns, we are going to have Norman Finkelstein as our first guest. Then we are going to also have Shama Sawant will be making her debut on our channel for the first time. She's obviously running for Congress as an independent, which obviously changes things. But she's also somebody who I think if she did get elected would use her platform in a very good, positive way, much like she's been using her platform as a city council member in Seattle. Now she would have the federal seat, and she's running against one of the worst Zionists in all of politics, Adam Smith. So, yeah. We've got a lot cooking right now, and
that's all. Those are great. Some great interviews.
Yeah, no, we've been very fortunate that we've been able to do this, and I do want to take a little bit of a detour here for a second because I'm not actually seeing it. I wanted to. Well, Colin had to step away, I think, for a minute. There's a couple of different things that I think are very important that people understand regarding, you know, Trump and Elon and why they have had this political breakup, if you will. When you're talking about the most powerful man on earth and the richest man on earth, depending on the week, because obviously the money moves around constantly, this was something that I think a lot of people felt was inevitable, that there was going to be a break between Elon and Trump. The egos were simply too big, that they would be constantly fighting, and that there was just no way that they would be able to survive this. Did you think that they lasted as long as they would, or were you expecting this to blow up faster than it did?
I wasn't sure. I didn't know. Everything was so unhinged. I wasn't sure which way it was going to go. I think it kind of all depended on whatever Trump's getting on the back end from anything that's going on that's going to benefit him and his family. I think that has a lot to do with where things go. I am not sure about what they've presented being the real problem is actually the problem. I think there's a possibility there's going to be another honeymoon period in a week or two. I mean, maybe the cuts to the Build Back Better were the problem, or Build Back Better. It's funny. The big, beautiful bill. Those guys like.
I'm not convinced that bill is going to pass.
No, I don't think it will. And not without a lot of changes to it. So I think that it's weird to me. I don't know what to think of it. I don't know if it is, some people call it a psyop to distract from other things that's going on. That's possible. But also both of these guys are so narcissistically arrogant and have this inflated view of what their intelligence actually is that I'm not surprised that they're acting like big man babies online. So I have very mixed views. I have no idea. It's entertaining to me in a sad and dystopian, satirical kind of way, though.
Yeah, I think that we're in a unique time where there's just way too much exposure to a lot of the things that are being said in public. And, you know, when Elon comes out and says that Trump was on the Epstein log, and now all of a sudden they're apparently making up and everything is fine. Everything is not fine. You know, you still haven't released the Epstein files. You've got Kash Patel going on Joe Rogan saying that Epstein killed himself. You know, one nation under blackmail.
Essentially.
People that had completely different tunes that were being espoused before they got into power. Now they're in it, and now they're saying something completely different, which to me it's just grounds for levels of suspicion where you have to know that there are so many people of immense prominence that are on those flight logs, that have been to that island, that commit untold, unsightly acts of criminal behavior. And the fact that so many people were anticipating that this was going to be released and now it isn't being released, or that the files are being destroyed, this is just one more layer being added on to people who distrust this system and are never going to trust it again. And they shouldn't. I mean, that's what I see.
There's also this, I feel like Elon's kind of pulling a Jake Tapper.
How so?
What about the Epstein list? Dude, if you saw them and you knew that and you didn't call it out at the time because of your own political expediency, what the hell does that say about you? Kind of like Jake Tapper. I wrote a book, you know, about about Biden's decline, but I didn't say anything when I was, you know, while he was still in office, or Jean-Pierre being like, you know, I had issues with how things were going. Now I'm going to be independent. It just reminded me of that a little bit. I wouldn't be, it's not like it's some big shocker if he's actually on the list. He called Glaswell, is that how you pronounce her name? I always pronounce it wrong.
Oh, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Thank you, Ghislaine Maxwell. He called her a friend, a dear friend. He talked about how him and Epstein were best friends for 25, 30 years. What do you expect? There's photos of him at tons of his party
in Israel.
Yeah. They hung out constantly. You don't think he got all a little with what Epstein had going on there? You think that Donald Trump, of all people, the same person that was accused of being all creepy when he worked in Miss America and went back to see how the girls looked before the show, like when he owned Miss America, you don't think that dude was doing some shady stuff on and around Epstein with all of that going on? And if he didn't even do that, he still stayed friends with this guy for 30 years who is sex trafficking women. So regardless, if your best friend is a sex trafficker, there's something wrong with you. But I do think that I think it was more. But regardless, that should be enough. That should be enough.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not going to be. I just don't know where they think.
Big, like, oh, Trump was on the Epstein. You think? Duh. We know. We know. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah.
I think it's gonna boil over at some point. I just don't know what it's gonna look like. I think we all have to recognize that even if there is this sort of acceptance of people at certain levels that they're able to get away with what they're able to get away with. I don't understand how anyone could just pretend like Elon Musk did not say that Trump was in the Epstein files and that you could just toss that aside like it doesn't matter. I would say that that's a pretty significant problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I just, I feel like it's something that we already kind of know. But maybe if somebody like an Elon was to release something like that, some of the people that were still kind of in denial about it or didn't want to believe it, or maybe even don't even understand how close Trump has ties to Epstein, would see it for once. I mean, if it's real, I want him to release it. I'm like, yes, please show us now. Don't hold out on us. Like, don't just threaten. If you know this, why aren't you saying something?
Well, because again, I don't think it's just about Trump. I think it's about a lot of other people. I think it's a lot of people that the world would be shocked to know about if the information was ever released. That, I think, is the biggest issue here. Just Elon just depends on, what time of day, much like Trump has that doesn't have a filter, will say whatever is on his mind and will just go with it. And they are hoping that people forget that he said this. But I'm still of the mind that Epstein worked with Mossad and that everything is interconnected with Israel. Once again, that is why this has to be protected. This information cannot be released.
Yeah, I mean, there's pretty clear evidence of that. I mean, that's not something that is conspiracy theory or out there at all. I mean, there was some clear reporting that he had literally direct ties to Mossad. This isn't It's so strange, isn't it? On another note, not to take us off the issues, but it is so strange to me that things like Trump being best friends with Epstein, or the fact that there were ties to Mossad and Epstein, that's just clear, literal reporting. It's a conspiracy, but it's a real one. But how these things that are real get written off as conspiracy theory, I find that to be fascinating when it's documented. I mean, I've seen that now when it comes to Gaza and Gaza being leveled. People are, there are some people, of course, it's a minority now, thank God, that are like, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. Gaza it's not really leveled. That many people haven't been killed. And it's just interesting to me when it's just straight up facts are considered conspiracy theory.
I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think it's what it is. It's just a question of how much more people can be pushed before they just will not accept anything that is considered above board, because it isn't. There were people that were raped. There were people that were trafficked. There were people that were killed. And then you have people that will just lie to protect power, protect their career. I mean, This happened the other day on Joe Rogan.
This is going to come up because it's been going on since we've been recording here. Elon and Trump seem to be in a bit of a spat, Joe. You want to check the tweet that Elon just put out a little bit ago?
Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day. Jesus Christ.
I'm not participating in any of that conversation between Elon
Have
and
a
Trump.
nice day, DJT. Someone should take his phone away.
They're going back and forth about different things.
Yeah.
Listen, well, he said he was disappointed in Elon.
Yeah, they told him to leave.
Jesus Christ, that's a crazy thing to say.
I have to say, I really do like the shirt that Rogan is rocking right there. That is a Garden State Parkway exit 145.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I really appreciate that when I see it. It really is cool. I like how I believe that's Kash Patel in the background saying that, hang on. What they're basically saying is you got Kash Patel in the background saying, oh, I ain't getting involved in this conversation. Why not, Kash? Who are you protecting? So Elon puts this out there, and then the president of the United States is going to have to respond to it. And then all the while, you just want to pretend like this isn't happening. This is the whole concept of one nation under black men. where we are not going to talk about this. And I'm sorry, Joe, I captured you in the worst possible screen capture. So I'll adjust your face. There you go. So let's see what else he has to say.
Does he know? Does he know that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files? Or does he have access to the Epstein files?
I don't know how he would, but I'm just staying out of the Trump Elon thing. That's way outside my lane.
What the fuck are they doing?
I know my lane, and that ain't it.
I just don't.
He knows his lane, Z. He knows his lane.
Of course he does. I mean, he's working for a fascist regime. You don't work for a fascist regime if you expect to be able to just say what you think when you say it, when you think it.
You know what? They all are. They're all the same. Just like everybody kept their mouth shut about Biden. It's all plausible deniability. I don't know nothing. I don't see nothing. I don't hear anything. Whoever's problem it is, it's their problem. We've got them.
Well, I include those losers in the fascist regime too. But yeah.
All that aside, I mean, I can remember when people in MAGA were going absolutely nuts about getting Kash Patel in as the head of the FBI, thinking that this guy is going to really do the job. He's really going to release all these files. We're going to know all these things about people in the highest echelon levels of society. And then all the while, the whole world just comes crashing down where the reality is that, no, you are just a peasant. You are just going to be, and you just accept that you are even allowed to breathe and live on this most perfect nation that is the United States. Thank you for helping getting these people elected into power, but you can go now. We don't have any more use for you. And that's essentially what he's saying. Kash Patel is being given an opportunity to make a comment about what Elon just put out there. And you know that tweet's probably been deleted now because apparently Elon and Trump are patching things up. Trump has not even commented on what Elon said. He has kept his mouth shut the entire time. So it's really got to make you wonder why he's doing that.
Yeah. It's so strange. I could see him not wanting to get in the middle of their kerfuffle or whatever, but dude, you were the one who released that information. You were the one who supposedly was in charge of reviewing and releasing the Epstein files. So yeah, that tweet kind of directly relates to Kash Patel. Directly relates to him. He's like, I know this relates to the work I'm doing and everything I've been doing, but I'm not going to comment on this one, Well,
let's see if he has anything else to say.
I mean, I understand he owns Twitter. I think it's bad for your mental health. I think posting things public all day and arguing with people all day is bad for you.
Well, you raise a great point. Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Half of what we have to respond to is the click army on social media.
I don't know what he's alluding to, but it does seem that this is a story that they really want to sweep under the rug. We should not allow them to sweep this under the rug. Because as I said, there's way too much here. There's way too much evidence that something very dystopian is going on as it relates to what he's been doing. It is what it is. But I wouldn't.
I need to go back and watch that because is he saying out loud and openly that the Fed responds to the click army online? Yeah. Is like our FBI memes that we always use actually true? Do they have like thousands of Fed that we're talking to every day online? Is that true? Is that what he meant? Because that's kind of what it sounds like to me.
Well, I've seen the rooms where they have like thousands of cell phones set up that anytime an account puts out a post, immediately hits the retweet, hits the like. It's all a bot operation. And I've known people that, I mean, I don't know them personally, but I know of people that ran these types of accounts. It's amazing the type of stuff. I mean, I'm always suspicious of people on social media who don't show who they really are, who have, they don't put their real name, they put up a face, and the messages that they're always espousing are ones that are in support of the establishment, line, if you will. And so that is where I get very suspicious about what's going on. But with that said, I'm sure there's going to be more layers to this. We will keep our ears to the ground and we'll see what happens. Piano Man, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. We really appreciate it. Sing us a song if you'd like. We always appreciate it. Wanker Tanker, thank you so much for the $3 super chat. And remember, guys,
Wanker Tanker,
we're getting very close here. We are now at 26,998. We are 2 away from 27,000. So if you have yet to subscribe,
Subscribe. 2 more. That's it.
That's it. Who would have ever thought that our channel would get to this point? It really is. I think it's just a testament to the hard work that we have put in. And for those that have stuck with us for as long as you have, I mean, I always say we're very grateful. It really does make a difference. We're just trying to get the message out there that change is possible. Now,
I've got breaking news. Just real quick, I just want to pop this in for just a second.
Fire away.
A new poll was dropped from Data for Progress that shows that Cuomo is currently polling at 51%, but Mamdani is polling at 49%.
So it's a toss-up.
And usually, one of the things you got to know about political polls is usually whoever's in the lead, you have to factor them to be lower, and whoever's lower, you have to factor them to be higher. So there's a possibility that in reality, Mamdani on the ground is surpassing Cuomo. So
I would say that no one is enthusiastic about voting for Cuomo. And I would say people are very enthusiastic about voting for Mamdani. So will that make the difference when it's all said and done? Again, the only issue I really see here is what type of backroom deals is Cuomo making right now to make sure that he wins? That would be my biggest concern. So what is he doing with Scott Stringer? What is he doing? Maybe not Brad Lander, but just about anybody else who's running. I would be very suspicious of his actions and what is ultimately going to end up happening. I'm not 100% sure. So with that said, obviously you guys know what happened last night. This is one of the biggest stories that is going on right now. Greta Thunberg and the Freedom Flotilla, also known as the Madeleine ship, has been intercepted by Israel, and they have been taken hostage. And yes, they are hostages. People who want to dance around this idea of, what exactly happened, what didn't happen. But this is, we're going to take you through a little bit of a story here as to how we got to this point. So there were several members of the flotilla that were on board that were letting us know that they were approaching Gaza in the Mediterranean Sea. So here's what went down.
On board the Madeleine to break the siege of Gaza and to create a people's humanitarian corridor. And we just received some very weird news. That according to our tracker, we are no longer 162 nautical miles from Gaza, which is where we are. But according to him, we are on Jordan airport. And we know what that means. When they start jamming our communication, when they start messing with our devices, it means that they are preparing for an interception or an attack. And we all heard the Israeli media saying that they confirmed the Unit S-13 of IOF Special Forces. So they're preparing to commit a war crime. And we need to stop that. We can still stop that. I'm convinced that if we mobilize enough, if we pressure enough the nation states, the governments, we can make such a pressure in the Zionist entity that cannot afford to attack us, to intercept us. We still have a chance to save this humanitarian aid, to preserve this boat, this mission, and ourselves. And we count on you right now. Please share this news. Please share to everyone. There's a lot at stake right now. We know that this mission has been very successful in raising awareness and hope, but we still have a concrete success that we really need to guarantee, which is to bring food to people who are being starved to death. We'll see you soon. We are together. A big hug. Let's transform this world.
So you could see that they were approaching them already. And thankfully, they were able to put that message out there. But there's more to it. This, I believe, was done the day of that Israel intercepted and took them hostage.
Hey everyone, here's an important update. The communication blackout has officially begun. We have just been notified. What does this mean? It means we must now count on you, the millions around the world who stand for human rights and for a free Palestine. A Palestine free from genocide, free from starvation. We are relying on you to help ensure safe passage for the critical humanitarian aid we are carrying. If you don't hear from us in the coming hours, it means we have been cut off from the world. Remember, We are doing this for Gaza. We are doing this because our governments continue to send weapons to kill instead of sending aid to save lives. The blockade on Gaza must be lifted. We demand immediate access for humanitarian relief. We demand an end to the killings. Call your representatives, pressure your governments and their politicians. Do not be silent. Rise up for justice and truth.
It took a lot of guts for them to do what they did. They were at
Very,
sea
very much so.
several days. Now, here's how we know just how serious this circumstance ended up getting last night. And I'm sure some of you have seen some of the pictures that were taken, even the propaganda being espoused by the IDF, handing bread to the hostages, making it seem like they really cared about them. Listen, the only reason why Greta Thunberg isn't dead right now is because this became an international incident, and it would have been infinitely worse if they ended up just blowing up the ship, which I'm sure they really wanted to do. And who's to say that they're going to be freed anyway? But I only believe in my mind that this is the reason why this happened. And so this is the message that Greta released the night of being captured, just before they boarded the ship.
Greta Thunberg, and I am from Sweden. If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
So far, the Swedish government has said nothing. Not a word.
Shameful.
Hey everyone, we've just been attacked by a swarm of drones here. They attacked the humanitarian aid, they attacked the top of our cockpit. Yeah, they are right here above us, the quadcopters. And yeah, we had a good response time. Our team is doing well. We do not fear them. They did a very bad calculation. They cannot expect the global uprising that may come. How much people will be able to do a bigger effort now, to go to the demonstrations, to do boycotting, to disrupt the armed factories, to break the media blockade, to break the blockade of the big techs, the boycott that they do on free information. And yes, to go on the global march to Gaza, to go on the smooth convoy, to go on the next Flotilla missions to break the streets. We do not fear them. They need to fear the social majority of the world. They know that we are non-violent. They know that we only carry humanitarian aid here, but they are doing this for psychological warfare. But even then, we cannot go outside anymore because those quadcopters, they have a system called smart shooting. Yeah, here's the drone again. Guys, take over, please. Yanni, Schweib, change your life jacket, please. He's coming right beside. Take over, take over. Yanis, take over that, please. Take over that. They can shoot. They have smart shooting. Guys, there's a drone right here. Please take over to there. Please, if you can sit down. Yes, no, the drone is right here, right beside us. Please sound the alarm. Everyone, we are not stopping. We're still going to Gaza. We do not fear them. We take care of ourselves. Here's the drone, right above us. Yes, we are still going to Gaza. Our course is still the same. They didn't do any single radio contact. We are on our way.
Talk about defiance. Despite them being taken over, they said, we're still going to get to Gaza no matter what. And
it strikes me, I started to tear up the appeals to the rest of the world and hoping that the rest of the world will step in. I hope so too. I hope that this inspires 1,000 ships to go to Gaza, but I understand that desperate wishing that other people would step up. And it's something that needs to happen. So I hope that 150 ships, I hope that 1,000 ships carrying aid tries to make their way across the waters next. What are they going to do? Arrest people in 1,000 ships?
Well, the funny thing is that this could end in a minute. It could end as soon as Trump or just the nation at large says we are done with this. But we know
the nation at large has said they're done with it. It has to be the powers that be.
So what's it going to take? It's going to take revolutionary change. But that is what it's going to take. Because there's no other way. There's too much money and power married into our relationship with Israel. That's really what it's about. It's not this, oh, it's about religion. Well, I mean, listen, for some people, it is about religion. I'm not going to say that it's not. But it's more to it than just that. But I think the lies that have been told, it's not going to continue to work. That's what I think is the difference now, is that for so long they've been so accustomed to putting out this propaganda, and it's worked. But I don't see how it works now, because now it's just too obvious. And I hope that Greta and her group are safe, but I'm not holding my breath. I think that they could potentially be martyred. I don't think that that is out of the realm of possibility.
Oh, God, I hope not. But you are right. I mean, I hope not, but you're right. I don't want to see that happen to any human being ever. But I wouldn't put it past Israel.
I mean, we don't want anything bad to happen, but I would not anticipate anything not bad happening. That's the problem that I see. I see this as a situation that is very precarious now. Talk about a real spotlight being put on this entire issue. And it is a PR nightmare for Israel. It's only a question now of, as you suggested, is there going to be a cruise ship sized flotilla that is going to end up going over or attempting to go to Gaza with countless amounts of aid and trying to break the blockade?
Well, we've had some instances of some larger ships getting blown up at ports in Greece. This has happened. I mean, they blew up the Doctors Without Borders ship. The Doctors Without Borders.
I think at some point it's really just going to blow. It's going to boil over, because that's where we're going. We're in that boil over state. And I think for anybody who understands the propaganda, this was an Instagram post that I saw that I think kind of it captured what happened to them very, very well.
Israeli Navy sent commandos to go and intercept and take down the Freedom Flotilla on its way to Gaza. The crew was sending out urgent messages, pleading for help because they did not think that they were going to survive. And before the video footage went dark, this is what you saw. The Israeli Navy completely surrounded them and put 2 drones above them. Then they sprayed a white substance all over the boat. The white substance scared a lot of people because they thought it was like some kind of hazardous material or something. Still not sure what it is, but you can see it all over the boat. It did not seem to harm anybody. It could have been like a psychological tool or just to block out all the windows so they couldn't see them. But the commandos did board the ship and they took captive everybody aboard. The boat is now being towed to an Israeli port, and an Israeli spokesperson says that the entire crew is going to be deported back to their home countries. So they should be safe. I can't believe the blue state went and did something like this, and by crazy coincidence, June 8th is also the anniversary of the USS Liberty. That's a crazy coincidence, and Blue State is working very hard to destroy its own reputation, even worse than it already is.
Let's not forget about June 8th, 1967. The USS Liberty attacked by Israel. It is the only maritime attack in the history of our nation that we did not respond to. The Johnson administration swept it under the rug, all for the protection of the state of Israel. So to say that this was probably, or what could have been, certainly if they attacked the ship, I think everybody knows that there would have been no justification because there's clearly no weapons on board the Freedom Flotilla. But if they had, it would have been as bad as the attack on the USS Liberty. And perhaps they were told not to attack, that there were powers that be that were way above them that said, all right, this isn't going to be good if you do it. I don't know.
And they're deporting people from international waters. I mean, we're going to deport them back to their country. They were in international waters when Israel boarded their ship. They had a right to be there.
Well, they keep pushing the envelope. They keep pushing and they push and they push and they push until eventually they're going to push too far. And I feel like they're there right now. That's kind of where we are. They've pushed way too far. And now it's just a question of what is going to come next as a result of this. And so I'm going to play a clip that I think a lot of you guys have probably seen. But this is what I talked about this with Zeynab off the air, about the sort of the indoctrination that these kids go through when they are raised in Israel or raised in Zionist communities, and how they're very much like the Hitler Youth. Like, this is a mind meld that they are indoctrinated basically from birth with. And that's how you get something like this.
Children of Israel, we're looking for Greta's boat. We have something to say to you all. Are you with me, guys? Yes! We're coming to get you.
We're coming to get you. How old do you think these kids are?
Too young to be on a boat to come and get people that are just bringing aid to another people. Probably 11, 10, maybe 9. They look like they're grade schoolers. There might be a couple middle schoolers there, but these are little kids.
Woo! Children say the truth. Greta Thunberg, when you were a child, you wanted the good, not the evil. You wanted to protect the world. How come you suddenly became a supporter of terror? You talk about genocide. How can you not condemn the horrors of October 7th?
I mean, you want to talk about a bunch of coached kids? Here, read this and memorize it. And when you get in front of the camera, repeat it.
This is some dark shit. This is some really, really, really dark shit.
Yeah, these guys are going to grow up to be mass murderers is what's going to happen.
It's sad.
If you want to provide food to the people of Gaza, I suggest you condemn Hamas. Because the truth is that Hamas is taking all the food from the people of Gaza.
This has already been well documented that this is not true. And yet you have yet you have these kids that are going in front of the camera and they're just saying what they're told to say and they're going right along with it. Like, this is so dangerous.
But it's also, the cognitive dissonance. I'm not blaming it on this kid. I'm talking about just in general of they're taking all the food away from the people in Gaza, but we're going to stop your ship from bringing food and aid. We're here to stop you from bringing it in.
And they can gleefully say it, but this is what happens when you're told from birth that you are the chosen people and that everybody else is beneath you. So essentially everyone else is subhuman except you. And this is what...
Not Israel. And what about the hostages? Are you going to give them any food?
How many Palestinian hostages are there? 10,000? Probably more than
10,000. Before October 7th, there were 1,500 children. 1,500 children that were, quote unquote, detained. But a bulk of them were either being detained for throwing rocks by criminal and charged with military court, because they don't treat Palestinians as average citizens, as normal citizens. So any Palestinian that's arrested for anything goes through military court, not civil court. And also several of those children that were abducted and kidnapped were being used to pressure people to leave their homes in the West Bank so that Israel could further their settlements. They'd go and abduct kids and say something like, oh, they threw a rock at a tank. They just make shit up and abduct kids. So they were holding children hostage in Israel, Palestinian children hostage in Israel, long before October 7th. Amnesty International did an entire report on this in 2021 of 1,230 something children at that time. And the number only increased. The last time I had checked before October 7th, when I was covering this before October 7th, it was more than 1,500 children. So no, Israel had been abducting children, and yes, they had hostages, not just children, adults, even before October 7th. And I'm not saying that it's okay for anyone to do anything to any civilian at any time. What I'm saying is it didn't start on October 7th. and those people that were abducted by Israel are still being held, and no one in the mainstream media, no one in, corporate media are talking about it globally as a whole as these people are hostages that are in Israel, but they're hostages. The Palestinian people that Israel are holding, a large percentage of them are hostages.
And that's why this behavior is very dangerous. And of course, it isn't just a handful of kids. This is hundreds of thousands, if not millions, that are being indoctrinated into this.
Not only in Israel, but across the globe, and a large concentration here in the United States.
Indeed. Sorry about that.
I invite you to meet me, and I will show you what the children of Israel are going through. I hope that you will wake up and understand that you are on the wrong side of history. You know, children always tell the truth, and I hope that you will see that. Am Yisrael Chai.
Okay, that's like nightmare fuel as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that's really bad. I didn't realize how deeply indoctrinated people can get, but this is an all-timer as far as I'm concerned.
I've been studying cults and high control groups because I'm working on a new show called Politicult that I'll be releasing the first pieces for next week. And it's about cultism in politics. And one of the things about, high control groups and cultism is it can start early, but then once that, it doesn't even have to start in childhood, but it's your most susceptible. Once you get to a point where you want to believe your whole community surrounding you, there's so much, and then you don't have any information from the outside world, it's like living in a different universe is how people describe it. And they're constantly surrounded with confirmation bias. Israel is a cult.
Yeah,
this is cultism. Zionism is a cult.
And that's why the reactions that they have when people say you're committing genocide, you're and they're, oh no, we're not. How dare you say such a thing? They're living in an alternate reality. There is no other way to describe it. And what I think is interesting, and this is something that another gentleman put up on Instagram about the 7 lies of Israel. And I do think that this speaks very much to what we just witnessed in terms of how these kids get indoctrinated and they just go right along with it. I mean, they don't know any other world because for them, their existence is extremely isolated from the rest of the world. They are only amongst each other. They do not allow in insiders. It's all Zionism and nothing else.
And media is heavily curated.
Yes.
How many lies are needed to justify what Israel is doing? Lie 1, that God promised the land to the Jews. That's a religious claim, not a legal one.
I mean, that right off the bat tells you just how serious of an issue this is. You're trying to justify something that cannot be proven. It's just a belief. So by doing that, you feel that you can absolve yourself from any and all responsibility. And that's a huge part of the problem.
And religion doesn't grant land rights. Lie 2, the Jews were exiled 2,000 years ago. There's no solid evidence of a mass expulsion. Some Jews stayed, others converted or migrated. Total exile? Myth. Lie 3, that Ashkenazi, Sephardi, and Mizrahi Jews are direct descendants of the ancient Israelites. In reality, most descend from converts across Europe, West Asia, and North Africa. After 80 generations, any Levantine DNA would be statistically negligible. Lie 4, that it is acceptable to found an ethno-religious state in the modern world. We'd never accept that logic elsewhere. Lie 5, that only a Jewish ethno-state can protect Jews from persecution. This erases centuries of coexistence in Muslim lands and assumes equality is impossible. Lie 6, that displacing native Palestinians to create that state is somehow justified by all of the above. Lie 7, that apartheid, occupation, ethnic cleansing, and even genocide are acceptable tools to preserve it. Strip away the myths, and what's left is violent settler colonialism.
That's great.
What else is it?
Spot on.
I mean, it seems pretty obvious at this point. I think the real question now becomes, how much longer do we have to put up with this before it just completely implodes? I would think that if the flotilla was firebombed and they were killed, that would have been it. That would have been the last straw, because there would have been, Greta Thunberg murdered by Israel. It just, there would have been no way for them to survive that PR-wise. But
I don't know, man. The KitchenAid workers from
there was not a specifically recognizable person that was involved in that, and a lot has changed since that happened, which was about a year ago. So we're sitting in a place right now where the change is happening, and it may not be happening nearly as fast as we would like it to, but we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. We're getting somewhere.
Now the question
I think
is
at least the populace has moved, but the populace hasn't necessarily moved the people in power yet. But
well, that's why we're constantly getting distracted. That's why there's so many different stories happening all at once. But we at this channel stay heavily focused on this because I believe that it's all interconnected. So much of the problems that we are seeing domestically is interconnected to what is happening on the foreign side, particularly in Israel. And so when we look at the systemic control that state has over our government, it has to be a primary focus.
Well, Gaza is a testing ground. Gaza was a testing ground. We talked about this earlier in the show. Palantir was tested there, and now it's being brought back home. Alex Karp, you've covered it on the show. Alex Karp openly speaks out about this. Some of the things that Balaji Srinivasan, which wrote The Network State, who the tech bros kind of model their stuff off of, he says that what they want to bring here is sort of a techno-Zionism. The police state, the police are trained by the IDF. There are leaders in different states that will go overseas and train and then come back here and train our police officers, or Israel will bring IDF soldiers directly to train our police. And a lot of these cop cities cropping up are funded in part by the same people that fund Israel and by the same people that are pushing for these things. It is directly interconnected. Like you said, it's not even, and also our elections are swung and a heavy hand on our elections from AIPAC and from the Israel lobby, a heavy hand.
One thing that I want to direct before we go is a story that I don't know how many of you guys remember Bill Pulte, but here is a person, if you're not too familiar, has the future of the housing crisis sitting in his hand. Now, Bill Pulte was actually a guest on our podcast in a very early stage. I believe we had him on 3 years ago. And so what Pulte used to do, Pulte is he's a Nepo baby. His grandfather is an extremely successful real estate developer. And one of the things that he was doing for a period of time, he was basically playing a role, I guess, of like a human version of GoFundMe. So people that needed help financially online, he would contribute to them and help them in their time of need. But he's also somebody who doesn't actually believe in any type of a government that really works on behalf of the people, that essentially everything should be privatized, which is why Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two primary home mortgage loans, which are government-backed in this country, should no longer be protected by the federal government, that they should all be privatized. That's his plan. Now, call me cynical, call me crazy, but I don't think that's a very good idea. I think that there are certain things that right now would be best served as to not have somebody who is the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency in charge of basically deciding that all housing needs to be completely privatized. And what does that mean? It means that workforce housing, goodbye, low-income housing, goodbye.
Rural housing loans, USDA loans.
free for all. The real motive, Piano Man, is that there are people that are at the heads of society, especially ones that were born at the heads of society, that simply believe in serfdom. They believe that people are supposed to be serfs.
That's right.
That's it.
That's and that's easily tracked. If you go and you look up the dogma of Peter Thiel, Curtis Yarvin, go look it up. These guys believe that, and then they work with people like the Heritage Foundation, because a lot of those guys want to kind of create a Christo-national state, or at least like little pockets of states that are completely Christian nationalist.
I think that's a means to an end. Yes, there's religious nut jobs out there, but they're all used for political purposes, just like the heads of
what I'm getting at. They work with those people right now because for the purposes of the tech bros and the oligarchs, it benefits them to work with those people now. You know what I mean? So it's like that's a convenient crossover, you know. But the real people, you hit it on the head, Peter. This is a march toward like a techno monarchy, a new kind of monarchy. They don't want us owning anything. They want us all renting. So we go to work. If we're lucky enough to get a job, we go to work. The rest of us die because a lot of these people believe that there's overpopulation. That's just true. I know I sound like a crazy person, but this is just fact. A lot of them will talk about, you'll hear Andreessen, Thiel, a lot of these guys talk about overpopulation. I've actually heard that from Bill Pulte before too. And so there's an underlying feeling that there's too many people already. They kind of don't need so many poor people to work for them, especially with AI and stuff growing. So we need to kind of deal with the poor people problem. And they want to privatize everything, because if everything is privatized, more housing can be bought up, taken away from us so that we're not homeowners. And in that way, I diverge from like communist people and stuff like that. I mean, I guess I'm more democratic socialist. I don't know what the fuck I am. I'm a humanist. But if you, I believe that people should have the right. All I want is like a trailer and a couple acres so that I can grow a garden. That's all I want. I believe that people should have the right to do that. People should be able to start their own small business if they want and flourish. I believe in that kind of stuff. I am not the state owns everything. I do not want the state telling me where I can live and where I can move. That's just me. But people like this guy is no different than the people that want the state to own everything and want to be able to tell you where to move and what to do. This guy just wants big corporations to be the ones to tell. Well, I don't know about this guy. The purpose of the plan overall of these, I don't know, these techno like theocrats or whatever, they want to be able to own it all, and then they delineate to us what happens. So instead of replacing the government kind of controlling everything, it's them controlling everything. And that's the irony to me. And that's why I laugh sometimes at people that are like, I'm anti-communist, but I support, I don't know, I support the government taking over. You know, I want the liberty to me is being able to monitor everything you do and take away your First Amendment rights. Go and lock them up, shoot them on the street. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? That's what despots do. Yeah, but then they'll praise someone like a Bill Pulte, and they'll say, "Good, this will save me on taxes if it's privatized." These
they don't
middle class
understand.
people think they'll get a tax break, and screw everyone else just so that they can get an extra $500 a year. When the reality is, they're going to end up paying more in the long run if all these social services are cut.
Well, as they say, it's like temporarily embarrassed millionaires, but it becomes a much bigger problem. I mean, that's debatable.
Housing, you're going to be able to speak on this much better than me, Peter.
Yeah. Well, I'm in commercial real estate, and what I can tell you is that there are those that believe that debt is a great thing, and then there are those who believe that debt is a form of slavery. So it really just depends how much control you have over the asset in question.
I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with her.
One of the worst examples of that you have is Grant Cardone, who is attached at the hip of Donald Trump. But one of the things that makes Cardone go out there and talk about his huge multifamily investment deals and why debt is such a great thing has to do with the fact that he's backed by Blackstone. Now, not everybody wants to talk about that little caveat because it's a really big problem, an inconvenient truth, if you will, that people do not want to hear. And so you get somebody like Pulte who's going to come in and say, well, we have all these problems with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Listen, nothing's perfect, but what I could tell you, especially about Freddie Mac, is that there is no more secure loan in the world than the Freddie Mac loan. So if you have it and your asset is a part of it, you are going to be in good shape, even if the economy goes in a very bad direction. But if you have a commercial bank owning your property and things go bad, you are not going to get any benefits like you would from the government. They will find a way to suck up that asset and make it their own. So when Pulte is talking about doing is benefiting the super rich, first and foremost, maybe a few beneath, but screwing everybody else. That's what's going to happen. And so we are going to take you guys into a little step into the past. You'll see I look a little different. But this is a clip from over 3 years ago when Bill Pulte was on our podcast. And we tried to kind of get an idea of where his head was at when it came to economics.
And not so much the political discussion in terms of, I didn't really think of it through a political prism as much as I just thought, like, to your point about red tape, we got to get rid of this red tape and, enough of this BS. And, when you look at, and I love big charities, okay, my family has a big charity, but
why do they love big charities, Z?
Because with charities, then they can pick and choose. Well, there's a few different reasons. They can pick and choose who gets help, if anyone does. Secondly, they can use those charities to say, hey, we're doing good things. So a lot of times it's just PR while they're racking in and kind of screwing people over. And the third reason is it's just another way for people to be dependent instead of having actual real socioeconomic change.
And of course, you have the big tax write-offs too. Don't forget about those.
Yes, of course.
You have big charities, or when you have these balls or these galas, as I call it, and you spend all this money on all of this overhead, let's say, that is all money and resources that might be able to go to people directly. And so, yes, that was a very motivating part for me, was to get rid of the red tape. And we try to do that every day. I mean, most of the time it's me. It's it's basically 100% me. And so when I see something, it's just, okay, should we do that? Boom, and then it's instantaneous. It's right away. So there's no diddle dallying around or anything like that. And if I added any bureaucracy to your point about politics, it would materially slow things down, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But one of the things that we see with nonprofits, and it's unfortunate, is especially the ones down here in South Florida, is organizations that start out, let's say, really grassroots, really well-intended. We're going to serve, we're building community. And then they get bigger and bigger, and then they get co-opted. And now the next thing you know is they're really no longer doing anything. They're just existing to serve their payroll. Like, they're just existing to be this nonprofit. And I've seen it down here with several organizations. We've seen it. And I mean, that to me is the biggest problem when I look at big nonprofits is are they actually serving, or are they just existing to make payroll?
Well, I think that's wise, and I agree with you. And unfortunately, or fortunately, or whatever, I don't think it's so fortunate. Human nature, I think, is always going to be greedy, and human nature is always going to want power. And so, there was an old saying, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And what you're describing in terms of how things start and then how things end, that's why even with any money that's sent to me, or any money that I would ever make off of social media in terms of profit, I would just give back. Because
okay, so what he's saying essentially is what Trump always says when it comes to his presidential salary. I give it all to charity. I don't take any salary. Well, Bill Pulte is a very wealthy man, and he was born into immense wealth. And this is also the one thing that people who espouse this free market ideology of no safety net whatsoever, the only thing that they happen to be right about is the fact that we on the other side have to deal with this bloated bureaucracy that comes as a result of these nonprofits. And Jen was 100% right on that point. But then you have people like Pulte who are not looking to fix the problem. They're looking to eliminate one and cause another one that benefits them. That's the problem. It isn't about
another problem, and I don't know if it's true for him, but where he just said he gets to make 100% of the decisions. I don't know exactly what he means there, but it made me think. Oh, go ahead.
His organization, the Pulte Capital.
One of the problems I have with this is that, rich people that are from extremely wealthy families or from wealth, even if it's just upper middle class wealth, I'll see them go into nonprofits. I'll see them go into whatever, and I'll see them. And I won't say it by name, but I saw this media company that's a new media company that was like, we're a media company that's going to hire Black women. And then I look at we're going to challenge the establishment, or we're going to challenge the people who are from, establishment media. And then I go and look, and the two heads are like very wealthy women. Both of them used to be in the mainstream media circuit, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, and they're sitting at the top of this organization as the founders. So if you have this idea, great. If your idea is to uplift the voices of poor people and stuff like that, I hate the term uplift. Just let poor people be at the head of the fucking organization. Why do you have to be at the top? You've never been in our shoes, but you're going to be the one making the decision for us. It's very infantilizing, and I think it's a major problem that we see in the nonprofit world.
Well, that also has to do with there's a lot of ego in the room. Guys have to be recognized for their benevolence. That's a huge part. Yeah. And don't forget, Nepo babies have an extra chip on their shoulder.
True. The problem is once you try to start benefiting from it personally, financially, in terms of profits and pocketing them and these type of things, it can really corrupt the thing. So, I make sure that at least I do that anyway.
Yeah. But you're also just you. So that's, you're able to just be you without having to have an organization that's, with a board and all of that stuff. You're just you. That's freedom. I mean, that's really cool. I wish I could do that. I want to be you, Bill. That's what I want.
I don't really subscribe to the idea that you need money in order to do it. I mean, even just the fact that you're having me on and spreading this whole thing. I mean, it could be, as far as I'm concerned, you could be reaching people who could donate to the kid who got his eyes blown out with the gunshot, right? So, it's not one of those things where you need to be rich. I mean, yeah, to, do the amount of money that I'm giving away in those things, yes, of course. But if everybody does their part, that's the power of this team is, when we put something up, it's not Bill Pulte. And I sometimes make a point. I say, I'm not donating to this one because I want the team to handle it. And if everybody chips in $1, $5, $10, you can take care of a lot of people, especially when you're dealing with, the internet, and we can reach so many people.
At the time, I remember I made a point to highlight the people that were commenting. These are people that all, I believe, received some type of contribution from Bill. And I can certainly understand that it meant a lot to them. But now he wants to take it a step further and take control of the entire operation. And that, like I said, we do not have much like we don't have the separation of church and state, we do not have the public and private sector separated anymore. It has basically been molded into one. And while something like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac should be left alone, if you're going to reform it and fix the problems, you can do that. But that's not what they want to do. They want to completely take the gloves off because what they see are dollar signs. They see dollar signs for people at the very top. And I can tell you that the more money you have, the easier it is to maintain your wealth and power and grow it. Interest rates, loans, there's so many different ways that this works. That for people who do not understand what it's like to have $100,000, much less $1 million, much less $10 million, it's a whole other world. And it's a world that very few people will ever understand. And so somebody like Pulte, especially somebody who is not a rags to riches person, somebody who was born into that wealth, that is so much worse because he doesn't know what the bottom feels like. He wouldn't know it even if he pretended to be at that bottom for a period.
Completely out of touch. And they're so arrogant, some of these people, and I'm not talking about him because I don't know the dude. But many of these wealthy folks are so out of touch, but they're so arrogant in thinking that they know exactly what it's like for us because I don't know why. I don't know why they imagine that they know when they have no clue. I will say, you know what it reminds me of, Pete? His plan reminds me of Abundance, Ezra Klein's whole vision.
Ugh.
It does, right? I
That's what
think
makes
that
me
this
vomit.
guy is in that whole YIMBY sort of circle that
Oh,
was co-opted by
absolutely.
developers, and so is Ezra Klein. So like they're like completely deregulate and privatize everything essentially, and then we'll remove all the red tape and we'll get to do all this great stuff. Well, I agree that sometimes there's zoning issues. Yeah, I'll agree with that. I'll agree that sometimes there's issues with over policing in construction and development. That can happen. But a lot of times, you know what happens is that Elon Musk comes in and builds a freaking AI plant with his own, basically his own power plant that isn't regulated properly and poisons an entire community. That's usually what happens. Or an entire neighborhood gets bought out by Bridgeport or someone like that. And then that neighborhood is then rented out and they'll let those houses sit empty if they can't get $2,300 a month for rent because they bought it cheap because they pushed people out of their homes, foreclosing on mortgages. So, I mean, yeah, some red tape pulling back is great, but when you're talking about completely tearing down any and all kind of federal oversight or federal programs, that's just what? No regulations on corporations at all, and I guess that these CEOs are just gonna do the right thing out of the kindness of their hearts.
The system's going to break, my friend. That's essentially where we're at. And from whether on the domestic side or the foreign side, we have a lot of work to do. And that is why this message has to keep getting out there. It's amazing how
we've
much
been friends for 6 years. Think about how much has changed in just those 6 years that we've known each other.
Quite a bit. And what's even more amazing is that if you go back and you look at that clip with Pulte on the show, it only has a few hundred views. We're having clips now on our show that get 30,000 views. So it really is a testament to all of you guys that are here that have made the difference in our channel's ability to grow. It is extremely gratifying. And yes, we passed the 27,000 subscriber mark tonight. It's like I said, guys, it's tremendously appreciated. If you are not subscribed, please make sure that you do. Check out some of the clips. We dropped our Abby Martin clip on Palestine earlier today. We are going to have the opportunity to speak with Abby at the end of the summer. Zaynab's had the pleasure. Lots of wonderful guests coming up. My friend Osiris from Stuck in the Middle podcast will be co-hosting with me on Thursday. Steve Grumbine will be joining us next Monday. And then, of course, we will have one special guest host that will be the last Thursday before Jen returns, and then we make our big transition into revolutionary change.
I don't know how to feel that I'm not a special guest.
You are. You're just a comrade, but that counts just the same. Especially when I haven't announced yet who that person is going to be.
Yeah, no, I'm family. I don't count that way. So.
Sure, you go to patreon.com/generational change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty channel. We cannot thank you all enough for being here this evening. Guys, remember, Zaina's links to her work is in the description. So make sure you subscribe on social media as well as on YouTube. It is always a pleasure having you here. It is always a pleasure to chat and talk about the end of the world, but at least we're together, not apart. Any final thoughts before we go?
Nope. I just wanted to say, if anyone is interested in some of the plans that these tech bros are doing, I did work. We have gotten 2 shows out so far, and we've decided to kind of change the formatting. We're going to do it more of like a video essay style, but we do have 2 videos out, and I worked with Lila and Pat from Punch Up Pod, and we're doing a series called The Broligarchy. So if you follow my links to my YouTube channel, you'll see those 2 videos, and it kind of gives a good rundown on what we sort of closed with, like what's their plans, what are they doing. We go into depth about Palantir, about Andreessen, about the cities that they want to build. They want to build company towns all across the country, and the first one has been built. Elon Musk has built the first town, so we're already crossing that line. So go check those out. I think considering what we talked about in the show today, it really kind of goes hand in hand with some of the content we had today.
Well, David, we only started 15 minutes late, but I understand your sentiment. And I know you guys are expecting 3-hour shows now. We're at 2 hours, but this evening is going to be a little abbreviated. I've got to travel early tomorrow morning. We really appreciate you guys, as always, for being here. There's plenty of clips to check out, so make sure you go watch them, comment, like, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. We love you all. We'll see you Thursday.